Welcome back to my channel. So this is part 2 to the last story. If you want to watch that, that's kind of like leads up to where we are now in the story, but it's not like necessary to watch or whatever. So anyway, let me just explain this very quickly in case you didn't watch the first one. I don't even think I said this in the first one, but it wasn't really that necessary. Anyway, so our landlord told us that we had a few months to move out, and then we find out that we actually had a month to move out. And luckily we found this house that we live in now, and the guy who sold it to us was like a family friend, and so we called him and said, hey, do you mind if we rented the house for the 2 weeks before closing, because our landlord needs us out now. And so he was like, yeah, that's totally fine. So because the landlord was like, hey, you guys got to get out of this house now, we had nowhere to go for 2 weeks, so we moved in here. Now, thank God this happened. Thank God our landlord was a POS who made us leave so quickly after 5 years of renting and being amazing to her. She makes us leave immediately because she sold the house to her daughter. And so we had to be out of there, and so we move in here, like I said, 2 weeks early. Now this is when things get interesting. So the first day that we move in here, we get all of our crap in here. It takes forever. I've never realized how much stuff we had until we had to move it all. And every time I've ever moved in the past, like my parents move everything and I'm just there, and then I don't have to do anything, or they hire movers. Like I've never had to move everything. It was a lot of work, and we had help from like my husband's parents and stuff, but it was still freaking annoying to have to move and then unpack it. I unpacked the entire house. Like no one else did anything. I unpacked it all. And so we get here, and then we're doing all this work all day, and then finally at the end of the day my husband goes to the bathroom and the toilet doesn't work. Like it literally won't flush at all. So he's like, Jalen, like the toilet's not flushing. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, go to the other bathroom, we'll figure it out. So he goes to the other bathroom, does the same thing. It's not working. So because we don't own the house yet and we're just renting, I called the landlord, who calls the guy who's selling the house. I called my realtor, and she calls the guy who's selling the house, and she tells him that, I was gonna give up fake names, but no. So the realtor calls the guy selling the house and says, hey, the toilets aren't working at all. So he's like, okay, well, I'll send out a plumber tomorrow. So the next day, no one even tells me what time they're coming. All of a sudden I get a knock at the door at 8 a.m., which I happened to be awake that day at that time. And the plumbers come in and they do their thing, and they say the toilets are fixed and that the problem was tampons in the toilet. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So they tell the landlord, God, the plumbers tell the seller of the house that, we'll just call him John. So the plumbers tell John, who owns this house right now, because we were renting. He doesn't own it now, but at that time he owned this house and we were renting from him. So they tell John, hey, they were shoving tampons down the drain and that's why the toilets are clogged. And he's like, oh, okay, I'll make sure they know not to flush tampons down the toilet. So John texts my realtor, we'll call her Samantha. So John texts Samantha and says, hey, you need to let them know not to flush tampons down the toilet because that was the problem. So Samantha texts me and tells me that, and I was like, I've never even had a period here. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I've never flushed a tampon down the toilets at this place, ever. And I was like, we didn't even get to flush the toilets one time. We lived here for 2 hours, went to the bathroom, and never got to use the toilet not one time. So how are you gonna say that I flushed tampons down the drain? And I didn't have John's number, but I wanted to text him so badly and be like, listen here, dude, I've never had a period here. I don't know what you're talking about, but I didn't flush any tampons down the toilet. I'm not on my period. Because he's like an older man, it probably would have embarrassed him, because it was just like rude, kind of. Like, I don't think he was trying to be rude, because he's actually a really nice guy. After we met him later, he's a great guy, and so is his wife. But through text and stuff like that, like, you never know. You really never know. And I had never met him before. So anyway, my neck keeps like cracking. Oh, it hurts. Oh, I don't know if you could hear that, but that was burned. Okay, so anyway, that happens, which really annoyed the crap out of me. And so I was like, I can't believe the plumbers would like make that up, because that's just making a story up. So the next day, the toilets do the same thing. So I text Samantha, and Samantha texts John, and then John calls the plumbers, and the plumbers come back out. This time, the plumbers are looking through the drains and stuff, or whatever. Like, they pulled everything out, they checked the septic tank, they were doing everything. And they call John, and they say, hey, there was still tampons, we had to get them out, and then there's some, roots growing into the pipes. And so John texts Samantha and says, hey, the plumber said there's more tampons and that there's roots growing into the pipes. So Samantha texts me and tells me that, and I'm like, there is no tampons. We've only been able to use the toilet after they fixed it the first time, a few times, and now it's broken again. So it's like, there's no tampons. I can literally show you I'm not on my period. There is no freaking tampons, and there's none. Like, I don't know what you're freaking talking about. Then I get told about the roots when I go outside to talk to the plumber to see why the hell they're lying and saying I'm throwing tampons on the toilet. And the guy was like, well, we know you're not throwing tampons on the toilet. You just moved in here and you said you barely even got to use the toilet. And then he was like, the problem is there's roots growing into the pipes. And so I was like, well, crap. And then the other plumber, who was also there was like 3 guys, he says, you know, we cut back the roots or whatever today, and that's the best that we can do, and it's inevitable. They're just going to come back and you'll have to keep fixing it. And I was like, well, that doesn't sound right. I mean, does that sound right to you guys? So I was like, I don't know about that. So I call another plumber and I explain the situation. I'm like, hey, you know, these plumbers came to my house. They said that I have roots in my pipes and that there's really nothing we can do but cut them back and wait for them to grow back and just keep cutting them back and keep paying to get it fixed like that. And she was like, well, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't sound right at all. I can send a different plumber out tomorrow to look for free and see what's going on. So I was like, yes, do it. But then I sat around even longer and I was like, I'm gonna have to pay this other plumber to come. And these plumbers that John has hired are liars. And I want them to come back so I don't have to pay for it. So I text Samantha and I say, hey, you need to let John know that the roots that are in the plumbing, they have to be removed. There's something that they can do. I talked to another plumber who said that they need to replace it and then they won't come back. And if the roots do come back, it'll take like 15 to 20 years to come back. So why would I have problems every 2 years when we could fix it and not have a problem, hopefully never, but if we do, it would take years and years and years and years. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I keep wanting to say their names. Samantha calls John and says, hey, this is what this other plumber said. We really want yours to come back out and just check out one more time. So these plumbers come and they check out one more time, and this time they bring 3 extra guys with the first 3 plus their boss. So Mr. Boss Man's out there, he's looking, they do this whole like visual thing and they're checking everything out, and they see, the boss sees, that these roots go way back into the plumbing system, like ridiculously far back. And not only that, but our 4-inch pipes are connected to 3-inch pipes, and that's why the roots are getting in, if that makes any sense to you. I mean, I get it, but I also don't know what they're talking about. Anyway, he's like, that's the problem, and that needs to be fixed. So I'm like, well, what are you gonna do about it? He's like, we're gonna replace the whole thing. So thankfully I begged and pleaded and finally got someone to handle it, because if we had not done that, if we hadn't moved in 2 weeks early, and if I had not made such a big deal about getting this fixed and corrected, we would have to literally pay to have this done over and over again, and eventually we would have had to pay to replace the entire things ourselves. And I feel like that's not fair when I've made such a big deal about this being an issue and asked someone to fix it for me, and like people just don't want to fix it. Like, it's just like, why are you lying? And you know, I thought this was John's fault, because the plumbers, I thought that they were telling him these things needed to be fixed and like he just didn't want to fix it for us. But it turns out that some of the plumbers there just didn't want to work. They didn't want to replace the whole thing. Their boss was like, heck yeah, we're going to replace the whole thing, because he's the one making the most money. But those guys were like, we want to go home. We're tired of coming to this house. We're not going to do it. And so it was like a huge miscommunication. It made me really, really dislike the guy selling us the house, because I felt like he was trying to screw me over. Like, you're really not going to replace this? You're going to leave us with something that's going to cost us like $10,000? That's what you're going to do to us? And then later I realized that that wasn't the case. And then the other thing that really annoyed me with the whole thing was that replacing the HVAC was part of our contract. He was supposed to do it right after due diligence period, which is 10 days. He was going to do it right after, but then he kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, because he wanted to make sure that we were going to get the loan for sure. But that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I was like, the one that you have here is so old, so I don't care who you're going to sell the house to, like you should replace it for them. So it didn't make sense to me like why he didn't do it sooner. And then he does it when we finally live here, and that was like a pain in the butt, because my husband was at work, he works from home, it can't be too loud in here. And then they have people, you know, coming in and out and like fixing the air. It was like a lot. Anyway, I think there's like some other like here, like small things here and there, whatever, but it's irrelevant. In the end, we got to meet John and his wife finally at the end when we bought the house. We closed actually at their house, which my realtor said that she had never done before, and she's been doing this for like 20 years. So yeah, we went to their house, which is beautiful. It was immaculate. It was so nice. And we went there, we closed. It literally took 30 minutes to close, you guys. Everyone was like, it's gonna take at least an hour. It literally took 30 minutes from the time that we went in and started talking, signing papers, and then ending it. But really, it took like 20 minutes of signing the paperwork and then being able to leave. So, it was a mess. It was a huge mess. Everything was crazy from start to finish, from, you know, the original landlord, from buying this house, from John, it was just so much. But it all worked out because we ended up in this house. I love this house so much. I'm so thankful. I'm just so happy here. And once we have all the like our decorations and stuff up, we'll do like a house tour for you guys. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed the story. I have a lot of story times coming up here, and then I'm finishing my 9/11 series and starting some more conspiracies. So if you enjoy that type of stuff, please subscribe. It means so much to me. My goal for this year is to hit 10K, and if I hit that, then whatever happens from there is great. But that was like my long-term goal, and I'm very, very happy. After that goal, I want to invest in some more like camera gear and lights and things, and like go do some like fun, like different editing styles that I can like pay for, you know, with like extra, like, you know, what is it called, like systems or whatever. Anyway, thank you for watching so much. So much. You guys make me so happy, and I'm gonna go watch a movie now.